Sure, if Melanie is in Kate's living room.
Family room. But that's
Family
okay.
room.
Hi, Patty. Hi.
Hi.
Why does it say switch the screen share? What does that mean?
That'll just let you see that we have up if you're on an iPad.
Such a good picture.
Oh, okay.
I love that picture.
Looking good.
Well, do you see Kate? Oh, do you see Talia? She's trying to get to you.
It's hard to see because I'm all windows behind me and it's really sunny out, so it makes it hard to get the right light. So
I have my shades drawn. And there's no sun, not a stitch of sun yet at the beach.
Yeah,
It'll
don't
come.
brag.
It'll come.
It didn't yesterday.
Oh, hi, Annie. Hi, Susan.
Hello, everyone.
And Warner. Wow, wonderful. Cheryl.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, guys.
Michael, you see Gary just joined us?
I'm panning.
Okay.
Hey, Michael.
Oh, there he is.
Ah, hey, Gary, how you doing?
Michael. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's been a long time.
You look the freaking same.
Thank you. Well, I always looked old, so nothing's changed.
If you hadn't made fun of my hair, I was going to say you're as handsome as ever, but
I blew that as usual.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Gary.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
You know who it is?
No?
Al.
Yes.
Liz Mitchell from 54th Street.
Oh, hi, Liz.
That was
Boy, I can't believe my boss forgot me.
All right, Liz.
God, her name.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, and that's
Yeah, the other lady works.
yeah.
A lot of people joining us.
Wow. Hi, Rabbi Patty.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey,
Pam.
Patty.
Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
This is just seeing everybody is just like I want to just cry. I mean, Melanie just touched so many people.
Yeah.
I agree.
You certainly touched me.
So we're going to get started and we're just going to mute everybody, but then you can unmute yourselves to speak. But we'll just get started here right now.
Wow.
I'll go ahead and mute everyone.
Okay, honey.
Did you want me to, are you gonna, want me to play the video now?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Shona. Welcome, everybody. I actually never imagined doing this. And if you know Mel, we are all in big trouble right now because she would say, no way. Melanie never wanted to be the center of attention and was quite adamant about it. She was also very stubborn. But just as Kate, our friend and colleague from several years ago, who's with us right now, finally got Mel to celebrate her birthday for the first time several years ago. And just as Carolyn rushed Melanie to the hospital in the middle of a heart attack just 2 years ago, though she was mad as hell for being forced to go, sometimes Melanie did give in. And so I'm going to believe that she'd be okay with this today, because not only do we finally get our way with our stubborn Melanie, but we need to say how much we loved her, because for many of us, she was indeed the front and center of our lives. We're going to start with Melanie's friend and colleague of over 30 years. Michael, I can still hear your voice screaming, Mel, Mel, from your office. And Mel would happily jump because not only did she love you, but she was so dedicated to Seacrest and helping you to make things happen. That you were one of the very last people she spoke to, Michael, is very telling of your loyalty to one another, especially during tough times for Mel. Michael, if you unmute yourself, you can speak. You're muted still.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. I'm old. What do you want? Okay, so I want to share a couple of stories. I wish Craig was on because I love embarrassing Craig Lambert, but what are you going to do? Liz can attest to this. The first 6 or 7 years or 8 years when I was with Seacrest, I went through a few secretaries, to say the least. And the last secretary before I hired Mel was this very proper English woman. I'd never hired an English secretary before. And she came into a board meeting, and it was at the old 54th Street home. It was right before we moved up into the trailers. And the board guy, Liz never knew this. We got into an argument about giving Liz a $500 bonus. And the board must have spent an hour talking about whether that was a taxable event or not. And I'm looking over at this woman. This is her first board meeting. I've already locked myself in my little padded room, which I would do at board meetings. And I'm looking over, and she's getting like this real panic look on her face. And the board's going on. Was it taxable, not taxable? I'm telling you, 20 minutes went on over this gift. And all of a sudden I look over and she's crying. And I go, this isn't going to be very good. 5 minutes later, she got up and she walked out. Well, that was the last time we ever saw her. She never came to work the next day, never heard from her. So I went and looked for a secretary, and I interviewed Mel, and I hired her. And she came to the next board meeting, which was at 54th Street. And I introduced her to the board, and I can't remember who, one of the board members yelled out, you better strap this one in. So that was how Mel started. I strapped her in, and we worked together for 11 years. Mel loved Seacrest. She loved the residents. She loved the people that worked there, and she loved the board members, and they loved her. From the time I was with Mel, which would have been probably about 1980, 81, I think is when Mel started. I can't remember exactly. She was the best advocate for Seacrest that one could ever have. And yes, we never believed in intercom systems. It was just, we would yell back and forth. So I had forgotten that we were in a trailer when we were building the home. And Craig Lambert was there at the time. It was Melanie, it was Craig, myself, and maybe one other person in a small trailer with a bathroom right in the middle of the trailer. So when you would go to use the bathroom, it was like everybody knew it. Well, Melanie went one time, and Craig had a habit of never locking the door to the bathroom. So I heard a scream. Mel went to the restroom. Craig was in the restroom. So she let it go. The second time it happened, she got really upset. Craig, lock the door to the bathroom. But if you know Craig, it takes multiple times to get Craig to hear you. The third time, she opened the door, and I heard the scream. if you don't talk to Craig and make him lock that damn door, he can't use the bathroom in the trailer anymore. And we got that problem finally solved. I think we moved Craig into the building at time. It was almost done, so it's about the only way we could solve that problem. But life with Melanie and Pam and Robin, you all know, was always an interest. She was funny. She had her moments of being very dark. She had a wonderful life. She had a challenging life, but Seacrest was her life. And all of you here today know she was her life. I mean, she was the most dedicated person to the organization that I've known. And we remained friends and spoke periodically, saw each other whenever I come to San Diego. She was a blessing to the organization and a blessing as a friend to all of us. And I'm truly sorry that she's gone and that she had to go alone, I guess is the saddest part of it all. But if you knew Mel in the young days, when she was young, there was always a story. Every week there was another challenge with Mel, and some of them because she would buy some car that was bad and I had to figure out how to help her out of that, or when she was buying her place or whatever, or should I get a dog, not get a dog, and whatever. It was always a lot of fun, but always a challenge. I thank you for letting me share a couple of moments of my memories with Mel. I've been able to smile a lot since Robin called me, because most of the memories are just wonderful, wonderful memories. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Gary? Where's Gary?
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for allowing me to speak about Mel. And I love the video about, really the video is all about kindness. And I think that Mel was full of kindness. And just like Michael said, her heart and soul was with Seacrest. And I know this not because of me, but because of my daughter, Jamie, who worked for Seacrest for a year and loved Mel and was inspired by Mel and mentored by Mel. And Jamie's comments were about how sweet and how kind, how caring she was about, the staff and the residents and all the donors. And Jamie was very, very big on telling me about how she cared for everyone, and she loved the donors and what she would do for everyone. So I just wanted to say that, it's an honor to be here. I've known Mel since the days of Michael. And it's funny that I've been around that long, because aren't I still young? I get old somehow. So no, okay. Story also with Mel that I thought was relevant. And so I'll share it with you. And it's a simple story, but it kind of tells you about the theme of kindness. I was doing a charity raise for the Heart Association twice. And I sent out an email, a blast email saying, who could join me in helping me raise money for the American Heart Association. And a bunch of people did. It was great. I'd get $25 checks. A bunch of people donated, and it was great to see that. But Mel, not once, but twice, and I was blown away. She donated $500. And I called her, and I know that was a lot of money for Mel and anyone to go to a charity that was just my charity. And I called her and I said, I'm in awe of you to donate this money on my behalf or for the American Heart Association. What made you give such a big donation? And she she said to me, she said, of course, Gary. She says, you give so much, and it's my honor to give for you as well. So I didn't want her to go into, I didn't want her to change her life for me, and it was so easy for her to go into her pocketbook and just give to me or give to the charity that I had recommended. So I was really in awe of her, and she really made me feel so special, and she always made me feel so special. Every event that I went to, every time I saw Mel, she was so nice to me and wanted to know everything that was going on, and just, she couldn't have been nicer. So I'm pleased to speak to her. Thank you for inviting me here, and God bless her, and that's all I got for you.
Thank you, Gary. Mrs. Mitchell? You're muted, Mrs. Mitchell.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to just say mostly a condolence to the family of Mel. I would like to extend to her family my condolence. And I have fond memories of Melanie as a friendly person to everyone she came in contact with. She always had some kind word to say to all, praying good peace and love will come to her family. Thank you, Liz Mitchell.
Thank you, Liz. Kate? You're muted.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm sure you've all heard the phrase in life, you can't choose your family, however you can choose your friends. I truly believe Millie was an exception to this saying. She carefully chose Robin, Ron, Talia, Jacob, Seacrest Village, its staff and residents to be her family. The first time I met Mel was in a group interview. I had applied for a position in the philanthropy department, which is now your foundation. Robin and I had previously met and immediately clicked. However, it was important to Robin that the whole team agree I would be part of the group. It didn't take me but a minute to realize Melanie was the one I would have to win over. She was on guard and ready to protect her family. Fortunately, I passed and would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when she and Robin debriefed the interview. My skills were not at the top of Melanie's list. I knew her main concern was my loyalty to Robin and her Seacrest family. Our team was finally complete when Alyssa joined. The four of us worked hard and long, but we had lots of fun. I realized Melanie was Seacrest's historian and human information database. She could remember almost every detail of every event or fundraiser without referring to notes. However, she had notes, copious notes, in Melanie's shorthand. She remembered almost every donor's name, what they'd given, and usually their meal preferences. She never ceased to amaze me with her detective skills. If something came back in the mail, she located the person, no exception. The FBI would have been lucky to have her. If we needed a special item or service, she found it. She loved her family and she loved doing whatever it took and whatever we needed. She was usually the last to leave at the end of the day and the smiling face that greeted us in the morning. Melanie worried she wasn't as technical as she needed to be, especially since she was the philanthropy database and it was her responsibility. She spent hours making sure it was up to date, and the many thank you notes and letters that came from all of us, in most cases, it was Melanie. We just signed. You could trust her with any information, and her happiest times was when she was working or planning confidential projects with Robin. She loved their closed door meetings and even thought it usually meant extra work for her, but no problem, it was for Robin and Seacrest. If I took a quick break, I would usually go in and sit in Mel's office. She would entertain me with memories and stories of her time at Seacrest and how much she loved Robin and her family and how she hoped she would never have to leave. I don't know how well you knew Mel, but she had some wild stories. Her stories never disappointed, and I loved her laugh. She also spoke lovingly and fondly of her best friend, Linda, and shared many of the special times they had together. Melanie and I both loved animal print and shoes. Yes, she loved shoes. And it would make our day if we both came in dressed similarly. Melanie, I hope you're wearing your animal print today. When it was time for us to go our different ways, the four of us stayed in touch. When possible, we met at Starbucks for coffee or for breakfast or lunch. We gradually moved to phone calls, texts, and Facebook posts due to distance. However, when we were together, we were still the same team, or should I say family. Sadly, the time did come when Mel had to leave Seacrest. However, her heart never did. In my last conversation with her, she talked about Robin, Ron, Talia, and Jacob, and the great team the four of us, Robin, Alyssa, myself, and she were. Melanie was always positive when I spoke with her. She was always kind and never showed anger or felt sorry for herself, although she'd been through so many difficulties. Many of us are worried that Melanie was alone in her last days. However, I know she wasn't. She had her memories and the love of her Seacrest family in her heart. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Kate. Devin?
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Devin Chodorow. In 2001, I first became involved with Seacrest when my grandmother, at the age of 91, moved into independent living. And being new to San Diego after moving from the East Coast, and for the first time in my life living close to my grandmother, I made it a point to see my grandmother at Seacrest every weekend and spend as much time with her as I could. And she passed just about 12 days before her 101st birthday. So for over a decade, I was at Seacrest almost every weekend. And my father, who many of you may or may not have known, you know, shortly after my grandmother moved to Seacrest, became involved on the Seacrest board, and I followed suit, getting involved as much as I could with Seacrest. And being involved with Seacrest, you know, my father always made a visit to see Mel after he left his mother, and I always did the same. And my dad always made a point to stop in and see Mel in her office and say hi and see what she was doing, and I ended up doing the same. And besides seeing my grandmother smile that day, seeing Mel smile always put a warm place in my heart, and I know it put a warm place in my dad's heart as well. You know, after you know, my father passed, I joined the foundation board, and during our meetings, I would always try and take a few minutes to sit down and speak with Mel and see how she was doing. And you know, as I'm sure all of you will share today, Melanie was a gentle person, kind person, always sweet, always wanting to give to others. You know, two words that come to mind for me are selfless and dedicated. So that's what I think of Mel. And while I never knew her personally as the most vocal person in the room, she was one of the most impactful people in the room. And she always wanted to do the best for all those around her, and especially for her family of Seacrest. And Mel's passing was an unexpected loss, even though she was not well. But she will not be forgotten, and her family of Seacrest will always keep her in our hearts, and will always, and as she always kept all of us in hers. And so, speaking for all of us today, we'll miss our sweet Mel, and I hope she rests in peace.
Shona?
Oh, thank you everybody for being here. It makes me really emotional to see everybody. It's been really weird. So last week when Linda called Robin and let her know that, you know, she hadn't heard from Mel in several days, you know, Robin called me and we both said we need to go right now. And so we went and we met at Mel's house. And, you know, part of me is just kind of, of course I'm sad and I miss her, but, you know, she'd been so sick for so long. So I'm grateful that she's in a better place. But my comments are just like everybody else. I'm going to echo what everyone said. You know, we made the video with the words kindness throughout because that's just, she had the kindest heart. She really did. When I first started at Seacrest, you know, Mel took me under her wing. You know, she was so patient and so kind. And, you know, I have a million questions and I could be really annoying. And she was so happy to answer every single one of them. You know, and I would listen to her talk to all the contributors on the phone. And, you know, it's like like everybody's saying, she knew every single person so personally. And she would ask, you know, so how was the bar mitzvah? How did your surgery go? How was your grandchild? She would ask, she knew everything. And I just thought, you know, I want to be like her. Like I tried to be like Mel when I would talk with everybody on the phone. So, you know, her kindness was just contagious. And, you know, she also loved my family so much. She would always, no matter how busy we are in the office, and we're always busy, she would take the time to stop and ask, you know, how's Tony? How are the kids? And she wanted to know like all the details, and she was never too busy to listen. So, you know, she loved us and we were her family, and she was ours. And she was a miracle in my life. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Pam?
Okay, this is the hard thing. The first thing, I want to read a few remarks from someone who couldn't be here, Kathy Sanger, who was with us for over 20 years before she retired, I think a couple years ago. She said, Mel was a consummate professional who always had a beautiful smile and thoughtful way of being interested in you as a person, not just a coworker. Anytime I went through the development department door, Mel would always ask how I was doing, how were the grandchildren, how was Kent. Even when I saw her walking to Mel's place with pain written across her face, she would still give you her sweet hello, how are you doing? Mel was as beautiful inside as she was on the outside. I wish her peace and love as she moves from this earth. You will always be remembered with the most beautiful and kind thoughts. And these are my remarks. I first met Mel in December 1988 when I visited the Seacrest property to interview for the administrator position at 54th Street. Mel was the first one to greet me at the construction trailer. She welcomed me warmly in her naturally gracious way, and of course her New York accent. After the interview, Mel gave me a tour through the construction site. The area that we walked through is what we now call the Lee and Frank Goldberg Residence Court, Building A, because it was just being built. And as we walked through the framing with our hard hats on, I could feel Mel's tremendous excitement about not only what was happening, but for what was to be. Mel loved Seacrest and did so much in the early days to get it up and running. She could be counted on to do anything and was especially helpful in completing the entire application to open our Leachhead Family Assisted Living Residence. I remember when Mel and I attended an orientation about the requirements of the application at the office of the Department of Social Services. The instructor said they had never gotten an application when at least something wasn't rejected. That's when Mel leaned over to me and said, well, they haven't gotten ours yet. And as it turned out, she was right. Months later, the application, which had to be about a foot high, was submitted. And sure enough, they reviewed it and said they couldn't believe it, that this was in fact their first application when everything was accepted. We were all over the top excited that nothing, due to Mel's fine attention to detail, had to be redone. And one of the things that Mel did, though, that touched me the most was when I gave birth to our son Drew in 1992. At the time, I lived pretty far from Seacrest, and the hospital was even further. And it didn't matter to Mel, though, because that night, she drove all the way to the hospital just to meet him. And she kept a photo of that first visit with this little tiny baby in her arms in her desk drawer. And anytime Drew would stop by over the years, no matter what age he was or how old he was, she would just show him the picture and say, what happened to you? You got so big. And she kept that photo in her desk until her very last day of work. Mel loved Seacrest and everything it stands for. She was a class act and a loyal friend who will be sorely missed. And may her memory continue to be a blessing to everyone who knew her. Love you, Mel, and miss you already. And thank you everyone for being here too. This is just such a beautiful thing, Robin. I'm so proud that you and your team pulled this together, and I really am so honored to be here, and I just loved Mel and miss her already. So thank you everyone.
Bradley?
Wow, this is harder than I thought. I'm going to echo a lot of the same sentiments, but I am able to share, Michael. I'm glad you said something about the bathrooms, because twice, karma, this is karma. Twice I walked in on Melanie in the bathroom at the corporate building. Because, you know, you just walk in there and sometimes you forget to lock the door behind you. And so I'm glad you said something, because I hadn't thought about that for a while, because I think we've all been walked in on each other. And I met Melanie back in 1994. I wasn't even working for the homes at that point. I was the auditor, the external auditor, and the homes was a new client of ours. So we had to get a lot of information from Melanie and about the organization, just a lot of documents. And I remember after the first meeting I had with Melanie, just impressed with her professionalism, just the consummate love for her job, for the organization. And then when I started with the organization back in 1996, Mel and I worked pretty closely together. And I have the same experience with Mel that Shona had. You know, when you're 29 and you start your first, I guess, real job, you think you know a lot and you quickly realize you don't. Melanie became a mentor in many, many ways for me. She was so passionate about the organization. She wanted to make sure everyone did things the proper way. There were high standards that were set by her, by Michael, and she wanted to ensure that those high standards continued. And she called me out on a lot of bullshit. You know, when you're 29, you think that the way you believe things should happen are the best way. And she would just call me out on it at least, and say, no, this is how we need to deal with this. These are, you know, these people. There were many times where I would mention to her, oh yeah, I need to call this person. Do you know them? And she would provide a lot of background for me. And I was very humbled. And looking back, you know, the mentorship that she provided me was so invaluable. And just reflecting on Melanie and her contributions, not just to our organization, not just to the Jewish community, but just the world, it really is remarkable. And as much as we love Seacrest, so much about what we love about Seacrest, the corporate culture that we have, was so heavily influenced by Mel. And I really don't think that's going to go away, because I think she just touched us so deeply in ways that we didn't really know. Because as Devin said, you know, she wasn't the loudest person in the room, but her guidance, her caring, her love, it was so impactful. And I'm going to miss her. And, you know, it's been really, really heartening to actually spend the last couple of days just thinking back over the last 25 years and what she has meant to me and to our organization. And as Robin said, you know, that saying about planting a tree, you know, she really did plant some amazing seeds that have grown, and we should all be so grateful for her contributions to each of us and to our organization. So thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Annie? Annie, you have to unmute.
How's that?
Perfect.
Last night, once a week, I have my parents over for dinner. And my parents are the Altacockers at this point for Seacrest. And as you all know, that I remember in their house in Point Loma, we had all of the ideas for Seacrest. And it meant so much to my parents to develop this, to work with everyone so that Seacrest could be what Seacrest is today. So last night they were over and they're getting a little old, but I explained to them about Melanie. And my father looked at me and said, wow, this goes back a long way. She was amazing. The team was amazing. And if there's anything that I will live with is how much my parents cared about Seacrest and still do, but they never looked upon anyone other than this person is doing and doing. And Melanie was one of those special persons. And my father said, oh, Annie, I remember the trailers. I remember how we were struggling to make everything work. And when you plant a tree, it's the roots that make it grow. And what has happened with all the people, everyone, is what we continue to do, what we will continue to do. And I hope maybe we can plant a tree in honor of Melanie. It's just a thought of mine, but my father and my mother were so taken aback because they didn't know. And, you know, we need to, as hard as things are, we've got a great team, but she will never be missed. We will always remember her. And mostly, I was so upset when she retired because she always knew if I wasn't going to go to a meeting, then I would call her. If I didn't, then I would always be there. But my parents, myself, we will always remember her, but we need to continue on and grow just like a tree.
Thank you, Annie. So I want to say a few words. I was just hired by Michael and I had just turned 23. Mel and I became friends immediately. Maybe it was the Brooklyn connection. Us New Yorkers stick together. I would run to Mel's house after work and I'd lie down on her yellow couch. It was 1989. We still had yellow couches. And I'd say, Mel, he's never going to marry me. And she'd calm me down and she'd say, just wait, Rob, it'll be okay. He'll marry you. Just wait. Sometimes I'd ask her for a cigarette and because she'd be having one and she'd say, no, and don't ask me again. Mel taught me what a Nordstrom sale was. The first time she took me to Fashion Valley, I was so overwhelmed. We had to leave, go to a restaurant so I could have a Diet Coke and calm down. I remember saying, wait, I can't go in, Mel. I need to figure out where we go first. There's sale signs everywhere. And her reply was, stick with me, I'll teach you. Mel loved shoes. When I was about 25, Mel had to have toe surgery. To my luck, she came back to work after her recovery. She said she could no longer wear all of her fancy shoes, and she wanted me to have them all. At 25, I had the most expensive feet in town. I remember I couldn't even pronounce the names of these shoes. About 6 months ago, I was walking through Nordstrom Rack and I found a tan and black pair that looked just like her favorite ones. And I snapped a photo and I sent it to her and we had a good chuckle. Mel was at my bridal shower, my wedding, Jewish holidays, my kid's bar mitzvah. She was just part of our family. When Michael left 19 years ago, Mel left the organization as well. And shortly after that, Pam and I met her at Starbucks and asked her to come back. I knew that in order to succeed, I needed her help. And she said yes. She went from being my colleague and friend of many years while she worked with Michael to being my assistant. But looking back, I worked for her all along. She just let me think I was in charge. We went through campaigns with Milton and DCI, years of meetings and planning and strategizing. And ultimately, it was Mel who helped envision who should serve on the first board as we created the new vision for Seacrest Foundation. Everything had to be perfect. And while Mel was hurting for years with knee and back problems, she would never give up. She insisted she had to be at work every day to keep things moving along. And then came Mel's first cancer diagnosis, which she battled fiercely. And then came the next, which she battled fiercely also, determined not to miss much work. I remember the 10-day treatment countdown. We brought her gifts every of the 10 days, corresponding to the number of days left. Only when Mel was unable to do it any longer did she agree to retire. And then when she heard that Fredeline would assume her role, she said, "It's okay, Rob, she's perfect." In Mel's fashion, she had to give the okay for who would be the keeper of the donor records and be responsible for making sure that Seacrest was represented well. I also think she was worried to leave because of my sense of direction. If I was going to visit a contributor, Mel would not leave her desk until I reached my destination. She made me call her to say that I arrived, and only then would she go to lunch or to get a drink. She was a loyal colleague and friend, and nothing was more important to her than Seacrest. And even in the latter years, when I used my GPS and I was really getting around fine, up until the day she left, I never walked out of my office without printed directions. Just in case, she would say, just in case you need them. Mel and my mom were really close. And once my mom moved to San Diego and into Seacrest, that was really interesting. They were around the same age, both Brooklyn girls. My mom was full of mischief, and so was Melanie. Mom would call Mel and I could hear them from my office. I wouldn't say anything. And then after the call, Mel would come to me and say, "Mom just called and I'm not supposed to tell you this, so I'm not telling you anything other than that she called and she's okay." And I said, okay. Mel had just turned 71 in November, and we just started to talk about her moving to Seacrest. I don't think she really wanted that, and maybe she was just saying that she would think about it to get Carolyn and Shona and me off of her back. But the thought of having her around every day was fun for us to think about. It's been almost 2 years since Mel retired, and we miss her. Mel loved my kids. They grew up calling her Aunt Mel, and her favorite days were when Jacob would build a fort under her desk and just hang out with her. Talia, she would say, was her girl, and she was so proud of everything that she did. And I know for sure that Mel loved Ronnie a lot more than she loved me because she always sided with him no matter what. But the bond I had with Mel was pretty special. She made me a better person and a better colleague, and she was the keeper of my secrets. I miss you, Mel. I can hear your voice in my head. It'll be okay, Rob. Just wait. It'll be okay. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything? Milton, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's a great event to remember Melanie with you all. I want to recall one story as an outside consultant. I think it was the middle to late 90s when there wasn't commercially available databases. And my company wrote a access-based database in advance of commercially available accounting systems, campaign systems, so on and so forth. For anyone that is around computers, they know how brutal the computer is, trash in and trash out. Well, Melanie took ownership in getting the finest information available with unbelievable details. The details could have gone back 20 years with specific comments attributed to people. The result was a well-functioning database, completely managed and cured by Melanie. She's talented, a great friend of Seacrest, an author of the story of Seacrest, if you will, and one who, without her, there might be a different Seacrest than we know today. To Melanie, I love you, I thank you, I remember you.
Thank you, Milton. Does anybody else like to say something? I thank you all for being with us. Did anybody raise their hand? I couldn't see.
I think
Mary
Mary did.
Mary, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, I'm Mary. I just want to say I've been part of the Women's Auxiliary. I remember from the days of 54th Street, and Melanie, from the time I became part of the organization, she was always so sweet and friendly. And I just have to reiterate and say about how she was always asking me about how my family was, and by name. She really paid attention to, you know, the family dynamics, and she really cared about people, and she was always so pleasant. Every time I saw her, she was so sweet and friendly and pleasant on the phone. And I'm going to miss her very much. And I also feel we should do something really special for her, because she was such a part of this organization and helped shape the way that, you know, the foundation office, the Seacrest Village, everything, the way everybody operates, gets along, and just the great organization it is. It's because of, you know, people like her.
Thank you, Mary. I want to thank everybody for being here to remember Mel. We will never forget Mel. And Mel loved music. She really loved Kathy Robbins' voice. So Kathy's going to end our get-together.
Can you hear me?
We can, Cantor.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see all your faces. I knew who Mel was, but I did not know her well. After hearing all of your loving and grateful comments about her, I think that the verses from this Phil Oakes song that I have chosen to sing in her memory when Robin asked if I would sing a song are fitting. Can you hear the piano?
Yes.
There's no place in this world where I belong when I'm gone. And I won't know the right from the wrong when I'm gone. And you won't find me singing out my song when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't breathe the brandy air when I'm gone. And I can't even worry about my cares when I'm gone. Won't be asked to do my share when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't be running from the rain when I'm gone. And I can't even suffer from the pain when I'm gone. There's nothing I can lose or I can gain when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. All the days won't be dances of delight when I'm gone. and the sands won't be shifting from my side when I'm gone. Can't add my name into the fight when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here.
Thank you, Cantor. Thank you all. Shona's going to unmute everybody. Thank you all. That was so meaningful, so special. And you're welcome to stay on and chat. And I just want to say life and good health, everybody. Be well, stay safe. Thank you all for joining us.
I would love
Thank
to
you,
chat
Robin.
about a doctor's appointment. Thank you, Robin.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Michael, did you see Craig? Craig joined us, Michael. You might want to say hi before you hang up.
Hey, Craig.
Can you see him? Craig, you're on mute.
Hey, Michael.
How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. How about you?
Before you came on, telling stories about how you and Melanie would always seem to meet in the bathroom in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I would hear about it every time.
Yeah, you should have put a lock on that door.
Craig, there was a lock on the door. You just never used it.
Oh, how about the foot?
Michael, you walked in on me one time at the 54th Street. Why you put bathrooms right in the middle of the offices, I don't know, but you did.
It's always my fault, so.
Right. Well, as it should be, right?
Michael, I'm just going to say quick.
Here we go again. Here we go, Robin and Pam getting on me again.
Never.
Hey, Robin.
Hi, Craig.
Big.
Pam.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, everyone.
It was a beautiful tribute.
Wonderful.
It was
It really was. So many kind words, and it's really was so nice to hear so many beautiful things about Mel. Hi, Kate Buddha.
Hey.
So happy I got to be a part of this.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, tell Jamie we said hi and we love her.
Yeah.
Will
Love her.
do. Bye, guys.
Bye, Gary.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Miss Mitchell.
Bye.
How you doing, Craig?
I'm great. Doing
Good.
wonderful. Yeah.
This was beautiful, Robin. And
Very beautiful,
team.
Robin.
Oh
Thank
my
you for
God,
putting
this
it
was so
together.
great. I know Mel's smiling. She's maybe was angry that we would think to do it, but after hearing all
Might still be angry, but she'll get over it in about an hour.
yeah. But it was so nice for everybody to get back on and remember her and love her and think about Seacrest without her is just, you know, unbelievable. But she did so much, and it was so great that she came back and worked with us those last years. And wow, she will not be forgotten. And I love the idea of planting a tree or doing something special. We have to. That's perfect. It's just perfect. So we will definitely do that. We'll find a place, a very important place for Mel.
I want to thank you so much for keeping me informed.
Liz, you're every much a part of this place as the rest of us, girl.
And thank you from me too.
Hi. Is that Sharon?
Yeah, Sharon.
Oh, Sharon. Okay, good. All right. Well.
Bye, everybody. Be well. Life and good health, everybody.
Good night to you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Robin. Beautiful. Whoever's sending out the recording, I know that there were people that couldn't make it that would love it.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Okay, love you all. Thanks. Bye, Annie. Mwah. Bye, Kelly.